All right, so what does this phrase enemy property mean anyway? Isn't it a bit of an anachronism in modern India? Also, what should happen to property that was in the custody of the government of India after partition? Who is the rightful owner of these properties, and is the UPA playing minority politics? Let's get straight into our debate tonight. Let me start with Salman Khurshid. Mr. Khurshid, it was you who led the delegation to the Home Ministry and in a sense persuaded your own government to fundamentally change the position of the ordinance that it wanted to bring in. BJP says this is nothing but minority politics.
Well, I think that I would be dignifying a very short-sighted statement by even responding to it. In politics and in democracy, people have rights and their representatives are obliged to speak for those rights. As a lawyer, I understand that the fundamental rights of an Indian citizen cannot be diluted and should not be diluted. And as a politician, I believe people who chose to remain with India at the time of partition deserve our greatest gratitude and applaud, not our dragging them into endless litigation. And I think the issue and merits of this are too clear to call for any substantial questioning or debate.
Salman Khurshid, if you believe it is so fundamental that the people who stayed behind should get automatic right to the properties that were once owned, after all, by their own families, why was this peculiar nomenclature called enemy properties brought in at all?
Well, this is something that we've inherited from the past. There were Defence of India rules and Defence of India Act. All this goes back to time of partition. And let me just point out that this property that we are talking about now is not evacuee property. People who left at the time of partition and up to 1954, their property was treated as evacuee property. But property that remained beyond 1954, and any of our citizens who would have left after 1954 and become citizens of Pakistan would have become susceptible to Enemy Property Act that starts virtually in 1965 as an ordinance and then becomes an act in 1968. So this is a matter of the past. I think today in the 21st century, this is certainly a term that we shouldn't be using, and we can find a better term. But that's only when the entire legislation is looked at more carefully and closely.
Okay, Ram Jethmalani, what is the problem with this formulation? There were people who stayed behind in India. They did not choose Pakistan as their country of citizenship. Why should they not be entitled to basic property rights?
Barka, I'm sorry that you totally misunderstand the issue, and I regret that Mr. Salman Khurshid, who is a lawyer for the Raja of Mahmudabad, should be in the cabinet and should advise the Prime Minister. This is a conflict of interest which I detest. Now, first of all, please understand one simple thing, that if property has been vested in the custodian of evacuee property, a custodian of enemy property in India, it is the property of the government of India and the people of India, Hindus and Muslims. Now, this gentleman left India in 1947, acquired Pakistan nationality. After acquiring Pakistan nationality in 1973, he dies in London, and at that time he was the Pakistan's ambassador at large. And it is well known to an LLB student that an heir of a propositus or an heir of an ancestor gets what his ancestor had. And I believe that this gentleman, this Raja of Mahmudabad, who is the client of Khurshid, should not have got a single item of that property.